There's a quadrillion class changes, there is a PvP rebalancing, and somehow, deep in my heart, I am upset. You see, shamans have been the stupidest, most broken class in the game for all 4 phases. But somehow, somewhere, somebody at Blizzard went, yes, they are the most broken and stupidest class in the game, but are they broken and stupidest enough? So we are getting shaman buffs. I hope you're happy. First of all, they put a blanket percentage HP increase to Battlegrounds, so people are going to be tankier in them. That was long overdue. I honestly hope it happens for the entirety of the game, like on the open world combat. That also should be a thing. Like one-shot trading is not fun for PvP at all. They also nerfed the internal cooldown of the Shard of the Scale set, you know, those trinkets that are the best in slot for pretty much everybody. I do not see a good reason to nerf it in PvE, so that was probably PvP intended, but I don't know. Maybe to prevent us like ninja pooling, maybe that's the reason. Let's talk about the class changes really quick now. They gave a 50% buff to Moonfire and Sunfire for the Boomkin, which I think is fine. They did need a buff. I don't think that's gonna get out of hand. That's gonna be annoying in PvP, but once again, not my problem. Not my problem. For the Hunter, they made Immolation Trap twice as fast. So it's gonna be more bursty, but it also means it's gonna be even better for PvE. It seems like an odd change. The Raptor Fury, that's the melee hunter guy that gives you more Raptor strike damage. It got buffed by 5%, so that's the melee hunter is still dead. That's not gonna change at all. There is a couple bug fixes from the mage here. Apparently a bunch of things were consuming clear casting procs that weren't supposed to, so that's cool that it doesn't happen anymore. And here, this is a big one and this is a very warranted change. Divine Light got nerfed. As you guys remember, Divine Light was the most stupid heal in the game. You could spam this thing and basically all the overhealing that you did, half of it, half the overhealing that you did, turned into a shield. So you take a class that had infinite mana, like the Holy Paladin, because every time you crit you get like a refund, and you remove the concern for overhealing because the shield turns into real value, so only half of your overhealing is like wasted. And they became twice as good as the second best healer in the game. That's how stupid the Paladins were. And now they gave it an 8-second cooldown, so it will still be like an amazing ability, but the Paladin is looking at like a 30% healing nerf with this thing. If you count the shield as value, of course. So this is absolutely huge. I am not gonna say that the Paladin got nerfed to the ground. I think the Paladin is still at an excellent spot, and you need Paladins for Molten Core because of the Fire Res aura anyway. So I do not think anybody is gonna be worried about the Holy Paladin, but I don't know, it was long overdue. This huge nerf is only fitting for a hugely broken class like the Paladin. So that's good. They also nerfed the Rogue tanking main Ghost ability, so if you're tanking AoE, you're gonna get hit. You're gonna consume the charges. That's no fun. They also nerf focus attacks. I don't even play Rogue. I got no idea what that does, sorry, so we're gonna skip the Rogue over here. Oh, look at that. They used to have spell power ratio on the Venom, on the poison, and they got rid of it. That's private server stuff right there. I remember that. I didn't know that was still a thing. I am sorry, Rogue players. I just hate your class. I never play it. And Shamanistic Rage got almost double the mana value. So the mana that it generates for everybody went from 10% to 18%. They got an 80% buff in their mana generation off the bat. Like you didn't need shamans anymore anyway. Like you were stacking 5 shamans in the freaking Molten Core anyway, and on top of that now they are mandatory for casters. I got no idea why. Like they nerfed this thing and then they buff it and then they nerf it and then they buff it. I don't know, it was fine. It was literally fine. We got Shadow Priest and Shamanistic Rage. Now Shadow Priest are gonna get indirectly like crap. That's a huge indirect nerf to the Shadow Priest that you're looking at there. It's a very hard argument. Like the Shadow Priest does very poor damage, while the Enhancement Shaman, especially now that they got access to Sulfuras and Tier 1, they do an insane amount of damage. Like not top tier maybe, but they are like up there, like the 4th best DPSer in the game, the Enhancement Shaman guys. Why would you ever take a Shadow Priest instead of taking another Enhancement Shaman? It is just the same mana but for more damage. I don't know, this makes no sense. I really hope they change their mind on this and go back to nerfing it. I think the dynamic of needing both a Shaman and a Shadow Priest is the best way to go. Also, the Warlock pets are also gonna get spell power like the owner, the Warlock God, so I guess that's an indirect buff to the Imp class. Affliction Warlocks do use the Imp, so that will be like a small, maybe like a 2% increase in damage, something like that. Nothing crazy, but it's a nice buff. Did they need a buff? No, absolutely not, they didn't. But it's not a big buff anyway, it's just out there, whatever. Finally, we're gonna talk about some data mines of other changes they didn't quite announce yet. Wow, look at that. They are gonna nerf TNT in half. Why? They already changed it to ranged attack power. So I guess that's gonna be a nerf for range too? The wording is very confusing. So basically TNT used to be that it was like 50% of your melee attack power. Then they changed it to 25% of your melee or ranged attack power. But now it just says melee attack power again. So that's just a 25% blanket nerf for everybody. Don't get me wrong, guys. The Survival Hunter is gonna be fine. They can survive the nerf to TNT. They got insane damage. They are gonna probably get like, I don't know, 10% less damage. They are still gonna be extremely strong. But why would you do a change to that rune in particular and target it in such a way that it destroys the melee hunter even more? They are already dead. I don't know, maybe Blizzard gave up on the melee hunter, maybe that's not gonna happen again. I got no idea why they just keep nerfing and nerfing the melee hunter when they are already terrible. They also nerfed the 6-piece for the Shadow Priest because it's not only good enough that they buff the Shaman, the main competitor to the Shadow Priest, to the point that the Shadow Priest is useless. They also nerfed the bonus, so it only is a 50% bonus damage to Mind Flay, so nobody's gonna go for 6-piece again. I mean, at that point I don't think it's even mathematically worth it to Mind Flay. I think it's just worth it to just do your normal rotation without it. It was barely manageable. It was barely worth Mind Flaying before. I don't know, these changes make no sense. Oh, that's interesting, like the Sulfuras and the Sulfuron Hammer with the proc that did damage, apparently it used to cost mana for some reason and now it doesn't. That must have been a bug. And yes, there we go, that seems to be the entirety of the changes. At the risk of sounding like a complete jerk, because I know I say this all the time, but this has gotta be one of the worst patches I've ever seen. Almost none of the changes make any sense. Like thank God they nerfed the Paladin Healer. I am happy for that. Why do you nerf the Melee Hunter again? Why do you buff the Shaman when they are already like insanely valuable? Do not buff. If you're concerned about the Shaman not being good, do not buff their utility. They already have like insane utility in Molten Core. Buff their damage or their healing or something. I don't know, I just think they changed it for the sake of saying that they got a patch. Retribution Paladin is still absolute garbage. The Boom King, well, the Boom King got a nice buff. That's a good change. We're gonna give credit where credit is due. The Range Hunter, which is like the most dominant, yes, they nerfed TNT for them, but at the same time they increased the damage of Immolation Traps, so they're probably gonna be just as well. All the same, while the Melee Hunter has to wallow in poverty. My only relief, the only thing that gives me tranquility in my life, haha, druid joke, is that they did not mess with the warrior or the feral druid. Against all odds, I will say it again, you're gonna get mad at me, I will say it again, they are fine. Do not mess with them, they are fine. You really don't want to play with fire here, Blizzard, do not touch those classes. Also, if you could delete shamans off the game so I don't have to see them anymore, that would be so great. They keep taking my job. If I want a DPS, the shaman comes in and they do more DPS than me. If I want a tank, they have more aggro and they are tankier than me. If I want to heal, they heal for twice as much as me. Why do they need a buff? Why do they need a buff? Oh my god. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.